One of the terms that's come up in both our previous presentations has been sustainability, innovation, traceability, and that's what we're going to be talking about next. Brands and retailers across the world are realizing that the growing importance and the need for sustainability in the business of fashion, and the innovations in the entire value chain and the distribution channel are beginning to focus more and more in making this transparent to the consumer. Our next session is going to be talking about just that, sustainability through innovation and traceability, powered by Woolmark. As the global authority on wool, the Woolmark company has a strong vision for the implementation of the environmental benefits and the opportunities for wool. It's 100% natural, it's renewable, and biodegradable. Wool has historically been accepted as an environmentally positive choice. However, increased consumer anxiety over climate impact and the desire for complete transparency has thrown some elements of the wool supply chain into question. Traceability and transparency are the only way to encourage brands to take responsibility and drive the uptake of best practice. By empowering the supply chain within the right tools, the Woolmark company is pushing the agenda for responsible choices from farm through to fashion. Its aim is to develop a robust, transparent, and auditable supply chain that is able to back any claims as to the fiber's eco-credentials, so consumers may be able to make more informed purchasing decisions with confidence in the knowledge that any claims made throughout the supply chain are able to be sustained and further add to the value of the Woolmark logo in its reputation for ultimate quality. Can we run the video, please? I'd like to call our panel for the discussion on stage. Avinash, Commercial Head, South Asia-Lenzing. Dilip Gianchandani, Country Manager of the Woolmark Company. Harmeet, Bajaj, Program Director, Fashion Education at Anant National University. Harmeet clearly has a fan following in the audience. She's the only one who got any applause here. Praveen, Premkumar, Director, Crea Worldwide. Sanjeev, Mohanty, Managing Director, South Asia, Middle East, and North Africa, Levi Strauss. Siddharth, Lulla, Corporate Strategy and Partnerships Lead at Circular Apparel Innovation Factory. And to lead the discussion, Gautam, Vazirani, Creative Strategist, Sustainable Fashion at IMG Reliance.
Can we please have the video to start with? Okay, so that was a video from Fashion Revolution, which is one of our partners at Lakme Fashion Week, where I contribute as a fashion curator for sustainability. How many of you have seen this video before? How many of you have asked brands, who has made my clothes? How many of you are interested to ask your brands that you wear, who is making my clothes? And how are my clothes being made? What is the input? What is the material? What is the environmental impact? So the video reflects this big movement happening globally. Fashion Revolution is a digital movement which started in the UK after the Rana Plaza tragedy in 2014, where garment workers lost their life in Bangladesh. And there's a lot of pressure on brands today from the media, from the consumers, from the government, to be accountable and transparent about how they're making the clothes and what is the environmental impact of what is being made. And friends, today this discussion is going to take us through some of these very challenging questions. We have an excellent panel, so I would request you to be as participative and reflective as possible. Does anybody already have a question about what is sustainability? How do we become a sustainable brand? Are there any brand startups over here? How many people work in brands over here? Can I have a show of hands? Don't be scared, I'm not going to grill you or ask you uncomfortable questions. I have some on the panel anyways. So we're going to look at why do we need sustainability to start with, what are the challenges, what are the innovative solutions, how are we growing our leadership in the context of India, and what about consumer awareness when it comes to India. And I would like to start with the only lady on the panel, which is Harmeet, who's had an illustrious career donning various hats in the fashion industry. Harmeet is now associated with the cause for education in fashion and sustainability. So Harmeet, tell us, why is sustainability important for the education sector in fashion?
Thank you, Gautam. I thought I would be the last one after I've heard everybody, but nevertheless, we shall start. You know, this is the word sustainability has been used, abused, interpreted, misinterpreted by various people. It is a global debate at this point of time, and I think it's an ecological crisis at some level. Companies, brands, organizations, retail, governments, associations are all talking about it. Education is starting to talk about it. I mean, education should have taken the lead in this, but I think the changes have happened so rapidly, and whatever has happened in the industry in terms of the ecology and how fashion has affected the environment has been under the radar for a long time, but hasn't burst into mainstream consciousness very recently. Education has not kept pace with it. Fashion education in India is almost 30 years old with NIFT starting. Even internationally, my research over the last few months, there are very few institutions in the world which are starting to teach because we are still trying to find out what we need to teach. And this time, I think industry has taken the lead. There's a lot that brands are doing over the last couple of decades, over the last couple of years, which is where we are going to be learning from. So at Anant University, it's a design university set up only 2 years ago. It's the first design university in the country. They have architecture, product design, communication design. They wanted to start fashion, but they did not want to do fashion the way the rest of the colleges, because today there is a problem of engaging those designers. The last 30 years in India and internationally, we've trained people for an industry which may not exist anymore. I mean, today we have to address education to young people who will make a difference. So at Anant, we decided we would launch a program in fashion and textiles anchored in sustainable innovation. And that would actually be a combination of body, material, environment, and technology. And I was just talking to the panel. The problem is what I had, I was part of the team that set up NIFT 30 years ago. We didn't have faculty. I'm back to the same situation. Faculty for this is what we will be needing. And I'm hoping a lot of people on the panel, a lot of people out there would help us develop the program. But I do think it's critical, it's imperative that we bring this into education now.
Harmeet, tell us, what exactly can I learn as a student in the university? How can I understand sustainability?
So, you know, sustainability, as I said, has multiple meanings. It also depends on who's talking about it at this point of time. We are taking, year one is foundation. Year two, we are focusing on textiles. Because I do understand sustainability starts at that fiber stage, at that fabric stage. Most schools in the country right now do textile design separately and fashion design separately. We are bringing that together. So year one, we are going to be talking about textiles. We are going to be talking about circular fabrics, reuse, repurpose, lifestyle assessment of textiles. What can we do? What are the end-use options? How it can be reused again? And most of this will be experiential learning anchored in projects, which we are hoping to work with industry on something like that. There will be smart textiles, there will be augmented reality, there will be wearable technologies. I think that has to be brought in. And that is the reason we are probably making the course very intensive. The last year will be more about business enterprise and revenue models, which would be your rent, recycled, second-hand products. So it will round off the course. So we are trying to develop people who could be entrepreneurs, who could be designers, who could be sustainable, who would lead the sustainable labs in companies. So there would be an element of technology there as well.
Harmeet, you said a very important thing, that sustainability starts at the fiber level. And we have two very big fiber companies here with us. In fact, Woolmark is a non-profit from Australia. We have Mr. Dilip here, who looks after Woolmark in India. So, Dilip, I want to ask you that how is merino wool, how is merino wool a sustainable fiber? What can you tell us more about it?
You see, the merino wool fiber is the nature's miracle. It has a host of eco-credentials, natural, biodegradable, and renewable. So I represent the 60,000 wool growers from Australia as a Woolmark company. We are not for profit organization. And we work the entire supply chain right from farm to fashion. And we not only educate, inspire them, but we also give them a new product development ideas whereby they become more sustainable fashion. So that's how we work globally. We have offices all over the world, and we try and ensure that how sustainability is incorporated in their supply chain management.
Right. Yeah. Can you talk about some of the innovations that you have encouraged?
Sure. You know, incorporating sustainability in a supply chain is a key priority by to make a supply chain management sustainable. If I look at, there are 4 pillars which are, creating a sustainable solutions. One is that sustainable product strategy. Second is that sustainable environmental as well as performance evaluations, CSR of course, and then environment management, as I said. Now, when I say sustainable product strategy, I believe that a lot has been done in terms of eco-efficiencies and technology and new design machineries to reduce the consumption of water, LED. Here I talk about the consumer perspective. At the consumer level, what we are doing to achieve the sustainable goal by having a different product strategy, like for example, we have introduced an innovative product called merino wool shoes. Now, all along, shoes have been made from leather. It is highly polluting industry. Not only that, the merino wool shoes, if you see that, it has a lot of benefits. Not only it's fibers, biodegradable, natural, renewable, it is odor resistant. So these are
Dilip, merino wool is wool, so will my feet sweat if I wear them? Because it is going to be hot and warm.
Yes. It's a breathable fiber. It's it has a miracle, we call as merino is a miracle, nature's miracle, wonderful fiber. So let us take a look at sustainability angle now. See, sustainability has 3 dimensions: social, ecological, environmental. So I would rather say that a social angle, how we support social angle. Gautam knows that apart from consumer and driven, we also support a lot of weavers, handloom weavers, with the combination of the designer to create a sustainable value-added product. So they get a lot more higher returns when they weave the amazing fabrics. We had a partnership with a lot of handloom clusters where we come out with a designer-driven. Last year we had Pero project in LFW where we shown that how we can support social angle apart from ecological and environmental.
Dilip, you spoke about sustainable product strategy as an important part of brands, understanding of sustainability. And an important point where the brand can begin working on sustainability. At this point of time, I would like to bring in a special video from Levi's. Can we please have those 2 videos on the screen?
Over the past 30 years, we've approached finishing with a lot of labor-intensive steps, 18 to 20 for every finish. We've created this new process that relies on laser technology that reduces that to 3.
This is something that we're scaling across our entire denim supply chain. This is going to be our new operating model. We are all in.
The original tenet of this whole approach was to maintain our authenticity. There's a lot of detail in a vintage jean. So our first step in the new process is to photograph the jean, and then we take that and illustrate it in a way that the laser can interpret. So what used to happen traditionally in 8, 10, 12 minutes with manual applications, we can now execute with the laser in 90 seconds or so.
Finishing is more than just making a new jean look like an old jean. It's really taking all the creative juices from our designers and bringing to life their ideas into a final product.
This is actually a vintage jean that we've replicated. You got the damages, whisker pattern, the unevenness, crackle. Pretty damn good match. So in the future, rather than producing and inventorying all 40 of these finishes, we'll only produce this and then we'll wait. So everything from that black line to this black line is possible off of that base, only with a laser file and a post-wash.
With this new process, we're actually able to get after some of the key challenges in our business. What typically could take us 6 months going from concept and design all the way to market week, we're able to actually reduce that by several months.
Levi's has always been passionate about sustainability. This project will push the industry to create a cleaner jean. Where we lead, others usually follow. When we built Eureka, we realized that we had a unique opportunity to redefine the future of jeanswear. Opportunity like this only comes maybe once in a career, once in a lifetime. We're very excited.
The gentleman who's sitting on the front row wearing a denim, right, do you know how much water your denim has taken to be produced? 368 liters. What brand are you wearing? So coming right back to Sanjeev now, Sanjeev, not many are aware that Levi's has been working on sustainability for the last 40 years. And these are some of the most staggering statistics I have seen, because denim industry is actually labeled and criticized for being a water guzzler. And here you're talking about saving, millions of liters of water and producing waterless denim. So tell us, how is Levi's able to do this, and why is this important for Levi's?
So I think from a values point of view, Levi's as a company has believed that, giving back more, taking less, is the basic principle on which the company and the founders built the company on. And profits with principle is something which is the bedrock of what we do. So taking from there, I think Levi's has actually taken many initiatives. I think we saw 2 videos. One is the waterless technology, and the second is FLX. So I'll speak a little bit about waterless. What it does is that it allows you to save 80% of the water which is used in manufacture of a denim, right from the cotton stage to the final wash and finish. So that is something which we started in 2011. We have continued to innovate on that. And what we are doing is, and we are urging the industry also to do the same, is to really open source this technology. We are saying that whatever sustainability innovations companies and brands are able to bring to the industry, while they patent it, but ultimately I think it is for a greater good and a greater impact on society. And so Levi's has actually open sourced this technology to our competitors, to everybody who wants to use, every denim manufacturer which wants to use waterless technology. And we have a very clear goal for 2025 in terms of the kind of impact we need to have, especially in areas where there is water stress. And we want to make sure that we are able to not only recycle water and reuse water, but also use less water from the environment. The second video, the first video actually which you saw was FLX technology. And FLX is important not only from a speed to market and a circular fashion and sustainability point of view. It is also important because we are using less chemicals. It is eliminating more than 20 processes. And that allows us to really take our goal of zero hazardous chemical discharge, that goal forward. And we are saying that, the more we talk about this, the more, the lesser hazardous chemicals we use is going to be better for the environment. So we have, we have packed, which is basically in terms of using, less chemicals. We have, got other initiatives, whether it is in-store initiatives at the warehouse, in terms of recycling cartons, recycling of denim at the stores, using more LED light, using ZDHC, which is zero discharge of hazardous chemicals, waterless technology. We are also talking about using cottonized hemp. We are collaborating with smaller startups in terms of bringing new technology. So there are multiple initiatives, and which all loop also into our commitment to climate change. So these are some of the key initiatives we are taking.
Coming to innovation that you spoke about very strongly, I want to bring in Siddharth Lulla, who is actually from the Circular Apparel Innovation Factory. It's an initiative by Intellicap to look at an ecosystem for sustainability in the supply chain in the textile and apparel industry. So taking Sanjeev's point of a brand like Levi's that has been able to do such brilliant innovation, and in fact is now even collaborating and sharing it with the industry, I think you're looking at innovation from a grassroots level, from a startup point of view. What have you seen so far in the sustainability sector, and what are the challenges that you see?
Thanks for the question, Gautam. So from the sustainability point of view, what we've seen is that today in India, there are several startups which are coming up, on the sustainability side, and across the entire value chain. So we're seeing, very interesting startups when it comes to, fiber, yarn, startups which have interesting recycling technologies, different sorts of dyeing and finishing. We're also seeing some really interesting retail and customer business models. From an overall perspective, what we have analyzed is at 2 levels. One is, the availability of solutions to drive towards a circular shift in India, as well as the requirement for such startups. So in India, where we are seeing things move right now, is that there is a lot of requirement for availability of solutions when it comes to, let's say, alternative fabrics, textile to textile recycling, as well as, alternatives dyeing solutions which are, non-polluting. But where India lacks at this point in time is that if you look at a global scenario, globally we see that, with a lot of brands and corporates, there's been a collaborative effort with interesting startups to drive a shift towards sustainability. Also, we're seeing a lot of funds globally which are focused on circularity, which should be, like your Textile Innovation Fund or funds by, FFG and Mills. But in India, today there is a requirement for a lot of corporate brands as well as, manufacturers to work with some of these startups, try to support them by, incubating them, by being patient and, providing them
And
capital.
can you tell us one or two of these key startups that have a very interesting, innovation story?
So in fact, I've had the pleasure of meeting some very interesting startups, because with IMG Reliance, we also, working on two different platforms. One is the Circular Design Challenge, which we are, assisting them in terms of, sourcing and evaluating certain startups on the design side, and also Change Makers, which is more on the process innovation side. So when you look at alternate fabrics, you see, companies like Canva Fiber or Bohiko, which are doing interesting work in the hemp space. You're seeing companies like Stylumia, which is doing some really interesting work on the data analytics and AI side, which is helping you, predict the amount of inventory required and helps, reducing your, wastage in terms of textiles. We're seeing some really interesting innovations which are coming in the, dyeing side. So there are innovations which are coming across the entire value chain, and we're also facilitating certain, prototypes with brands. So for example, there's a company called Somish and the company called TrustRace, which are doing some interesting work on the transparency and traceability side with respect to blockchain. So we are working with ABFRL to try and see if some of these practices for traceability can be incorporated in the entire supply chain to ensure that the sourcing on the manufacturing level happens in an ethical manner.
Any interesting startups in the audience that has a story to tell on sustainability, or a comment to make of any observation that you've had? Okay, so let me bring the question to the only manufacturing startup on the panel, which is Praveen, who is looking at Crea. Sure, I think you have an interesting video, so can we play the video first, please? Wow. How many of you don't want to buy this bag? Nobody wants to be caught. Okay, I think they're already sold on this bag.
I just need to start making them now.
Yeah. So tell us more about why you have done this, because you've been making bags and travel accessories for big brands. So why are you creating your own sustainable fashion product?
All right, so we've been in this business of making bags for various consumer brands over the past 8 years. And having quit a telecom carrier and having got into manufacturing of sorts, the team behind this whole project has always been of the thought that we need to create something new all the time. So the last time we developed a product which was 100% non-biodegradable, and we have applied for the Red Dot Design Awards. And this time we said, can we make something which is 100% biodegradable? So I was faced with a lot of questions as to, will you be able to make it 100% biodegradable? Like, what about zips? What about plastic? What about foam? What about rubber sheets and stuff? So we said, let's just try to do it. So around 6 months back, I made around 60% biodegradable with a lot of polyester in it. And then the design team behind in my company developed and tried creating these innovative clamping concepts to ensure that the closing mechanisms are not kind of compromised on. And from the fiber which we source from Lenzing, spun it, developed the fabric, and over the past 19 months is what we took to create this particular product. See, we didn't want it to be 80%. We didn't want it to be a blend. We didn't want it to be, we wanted it to be 100%. So we took the time and we said, if we can create it, let's just create a 100% product, and then let's see if there are takers for it. So I've not approached anyone yet if there are takers as such. It's just a prototype. We've got the fabric, we've got the samples ready, and now we'll start approaching people and figuring out if there is a market for this or not.
What's your ambition with this product? Where do you see it selling? And do you see a market for it in India? Do you see a market for it in this room?
I do see a market for it in this room for sure. I don't see a market for it in India as yet. Okay, sustainable.
He separated the room from India.
No, I'm talking about the consumers.
So you have to be a very evolved audience to understand this product and buy.
I'm going to be getting a lot of questions now.
We can start taking pre-order sales.
No, but market, yes. Market, immediate market may not be there in India currently. Immediate market is prevalent in the US or Europe because they are moving towards sustainability at a faster pace than us here in India. But I presume it's just a matter of time before all of us start looking, as you rightly said, start looking at the product labels in bags and accessories and garments, like how we look at food labels when we pick up food products.
Yeah. So Praveen mentioned that the bag is made from a fiber sourced from Lenzing. How many of you know about Lenzing over here? Quite a few. And let me show you what I'm wearing. So this particular outfit is made from EcoVero. It's a brand of Lenzing, and this is sustainable viscose. Lenzing and Lakme Fashion Week have been working together for the last over 2 years. We've done several collaborations with big designers and retailers. And this one was particularly with Abraham and Thakur, where they used EcoVero, and they applied hand block printing by the artisans in the north of India, and they created this collection. So we have with us Avinash, who looks at Lenzing's business in South Asia. Avinash, tell us about Lenzing's journey so far and what makes Lenzing so sustainable. I've been to your factory in Upper Austria in a beautiful tourist site. I couldn't believe, actually, that you can make a fiber, thing here. So tell us about what is your goal and ambition with Lenzing in India.
Thank you, Gautam, and thanks for being ambassador for Lenzing. In fact, like when I was preparing morning, I thought I will wear something in our own product so that I can give a reference point. But I have next gentleman here with Tencel product. Gautam is there with EcoVero product. I am here with my Tencel shoes and Tencel t-shirt. So we lead sustainability by practicing it. Of course, like we have Levi's here as our global partners who are now committed to shift their normal viscose into EcoVero. So coming back to the point, we lead the things by example. Like we want to be 100% sustainable. What mentioned by even Sanjeev, that he wanted to be a 100% sustainable product. So we make, say, only 100% sustainable products available to the market. For example, if you take, say, automotive industry, which is now moving towards electric cars, you make a normal car and you have an electric car option available. So you leave a choice to the consumer to choose between two, and then it will take a longer time. We go other way around, like we make only sustainable products. When it is coming to viscose space, we are committed to convert our entire normal viscose into eco-responsible EcoVero product, and then make that available to the global retailers and brand with the right kind of a messaging, and then support it through our strong supply chain, making this sustainability available at affordable price. And that's how we drive this sustainability journey across the entire industry. Coming to how it is progressing in South Asia and Indian market, it has been a myth, for example, like we don't care about sustainability. It's just a time gap which is now closing down with a lot of initiatives which are being taken by Indian government also, like plastic ban which has happened in couple of states, and initiatives on water conservation. So we need to gel in into this initiative, the SURE initiative, which was started by IMG in collaboration with CMAI and Textile Ministry of India. We are on board with SURE. So we have to be part of this initiative and then contribute to give us solutions for this. And then it starts getting response from the retailers and brands at the first place. So we are also we are being associated with IMG for past almost 6 to 7 seasons, and with nowhere we started with a sustainability day today, right, Gautam? And nobody could imagine on a highly fashion-driven platform to have a sustainability day, and then entire day speaks about how sustainability can be, redefined in a different ways of reduce, reuse, and recycle. So that's how we are taking the journey forward. We have a lot of global and Indian retailer brands on board now, and we are taking it forward in a right way. Yeah.
In fact, SURE, which stands for Sustainable Resolution, is one of its only kind of initiatives in the fashion industry today, where 16 of the biggest brands in the market, including Levi's, have pledged, are the signatory brands. And one of the articles in the pledge is about creating consumer awareness. And this is where I want to bring in some of our panelists and some of our audience members as well, because we can keep talking about sustainability all day long, and obviously the panel over here is doing some really serious work in sustainability, but how much of it is where the consumer really understands? So I want to bring in here Sanjeev, because you are a signatory to SURE, and one of the points is you have to communicate, So how do you think Levi's is communicating to the consumer, and what do you think is the receptivity of the consumer to appreciate? I don't think there are many people like this gentleman who happens to work in Levi's, so he can tell me that his denim is made with 368 liters of water, but I don't think people like you exist, on an average level.
So I think from a communication standpoint, already our products are starting to have labels which talk about whether it's bottleless or not, and what we are doing there. In stores, we are talking about recycled denim. We are in certain parts of the world, we are using something called redone, which is basically using your old denim and recrafting them, and those are a range we are not able to get enough of that, and especially in markets like the US and in Europe and Japan. I think it's a journey in terms of talking to consumers, and at Levi's we feel that there are certain benchmarks and certain goals we have internally set, and we want to be very sure that when we are able to first walk the talk before we start talking. So I think we are now at that point in time where it has gathered enough momentum. I think we believe internally that we have done enough work across various aspects of sustainability, whether it's bottleless, whether it's on zero discharge of chemicals, whether it's recycling. So I think we will be talking about it in the near future, very near future. And hopefully, I think that will be very much visible. And we want to create 100% transparency. And we want to make sure that whatever we talk about is actually seen and felt by the consumers.
Dilip sir, you think 100% transparency is a viable option for brands and the industry? I mean, Levi's is an exceptional example. And how would Woolmark communicate its innovations? Because ultimately you are promoting fiber.
Thank you, Gautam. Hello. Yeah, in fact, at a global level, we have been working on a trust, transparency, and traceability. There is a science-based and data digital base. We are creating a blockchain whereby we can, right from farm to the fashion, the entire supply chain, we are working in order to ensure that if consumer wants to know where his fiber is sourced, it can go back to the complete supply chain with the transparency and traceability. So there's a global project with two platforms, Adnas and Quaternion. We have Quaternion. So those two platforms we are working in technology side. At the same time, as our parent company is known as Australian Wool Innovation Limited. So we do work a lot on innovation, entire supply chain. So apart from traceability and transparency, we work on a very high-end product innovations as well. Like an amazing product we have recently built on, you might be surprised to know there's a wool with the water resistant, wind resistant. So we have come with Optim technology, and that product is, is on our stall. You can go and see that. We walk the talk. So innovation and database science technology, we work together in order to ensure the sustainability, which has got a basic idea from traceability aspect. We are working globally on that, just to have a consumer a better understanding to make the informed choices and informed decision to buy the product.
We do have a very, very short amount of time left in our hands, and I'll come to you, Avinash. Just to quickly understand, does anybody have a question for anybody in the audience? Or, yes, can I please have your question? Is there somebody with a mic who can reach the... Or
Thank you.
quick
Hello,
point.
sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So we've heard a lot.
What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Crea, and I'm representing Hotwax System, which is an omni-channel commerce platform for fashion businesses. And my question is majorly to Sanjeev sir, that as we all know that Levi's is a brand which is majorly business focused and not, like completely driven based on sustainability. And as you mentioned, there are a lot of initiatives, technology initiatives that you guys are already adopting. I wanted to understand, how is your marketing department tracking these initiatives, and are there any major key metrics that you have defined to track?
So how do you measure?
So for all the initiatives, for example, let's take an example of Waterless. We have a very clear metrics in terms of the percentage of jeans manufactured or denim products manufactured in India or globally. What is the percentage which is undergoing, is made through Waterless technology? So right now, we have so we cannot share internal metrics, but that is the way we track. If it is about zero, discharge of hazardous chemicals, what is the percentage of garments which are made through that? If there is recycling of denim, what is the percentage of denim sold to consumers which is basically made through recycling or reuse? If you look at the back end in terms of recycling of packing material, what is the percentage? So there are, if you cannot have a goal which you set for yourself without having very clear metrics. So across each of the parameters which we are talking about, we know the units, we know the volume, we know the value, and the percentage of total. For example, if you talk about, Eco-Vero, we are saying that by 2025, can we get to 100%? If you're using any viscose, can we get to 100% Eco-Vero? So if you're talking about cottonized hemp, what is the kind of volume? What is the percentage mix in terms of your total volume? And where do you want to get by 2020, 2025? So we have 5-year goals, which we are committing to ourselves. And in the interest of transparency, we are also saying that when we commit to a goal, we are going to announce it. Our global president is going to make an announcement to make sure that we are held accountable against that goal. So we have very clear metrics across each and every parameter.
Thank you. I have to move on to the next question, if anybody has one, because we only have a few minutes left. Yes, Shaunak, nice to see you. Quick, sharp, because we barely have 3 minutes left. We started at 10:30. Check. Okay. Okay.
Sanjeev, it's an interesting thing. You hear me anyways? Yeah. It's an interesting thing that you talked about accountability. It's amazing that a lot of companies have come forward and taken the initiative to actually pledge for sustainability. However, there are various global operators who, in the name of recycling, are essentially trying to keep increasing the demand. So in the name of, give me your old clothes, we will recycle them, they just go in the dumps. So is there a body that holds these companies accountable? Is there an international or a national body, especially for countries like India or China? The two of us put together is more than half of the world. So who is accountable for that? It's so easy to just whitewash people with marketing gimmicks. Where is the integrity and who is accountable for that? Number one. Number two, a sincere request to IIF, if we are talking about sustainability, let us not have plastic cases and plastic bottles on the table. It just beats the purpose. It's like serving kebabs in a vegetarian satsang. Doesn't work.
Well, you can give the plastic bottles to Arilan, which will get recycled into
Sanjeev is
PET yarn.
taking them back.
But coming back to your question, Harmeet, do you want to quickly answer about, because you represent now this, the whole academic education side where the millennials and young people are getting into sustainability?
I think that's a very, very critical question, what you've come up with. The body to first define sustainability and then to regulate it, people who are applying it. This was a question even I had to everybody saying that, how many boxes do we tick before we call our product sustainable? So I think this is a body that we're going to have to create, whether it's nationally, globally, because sustainability right now is also being looked at by everybody. Like as a manufacturer, I'm looking circular, green. As a consumer, I'm looking recycle. As a person who's growing the crop, I'm looking water consumption. So we need to define all the parameters, conscious consumptions, green, circular, whatever definition. And I think the body, IMG, has taken an initiative over there. I think more of us need to come together. We would love to take an initiative with a body like yours and sort of define it, and with CMAI, with other industry bodies, to be able to define and regulate what sustainability is going to be.
And just to add to that, if you analyze in the last 10 years, all the major movement in sustainability in the industry has occurred because of media and consumer force that is actually asking brands to be more accountable. So whether it was the Dirty Fashion report, or the Detox report, or the Canopy report on viscose, all of these major investigations have led to the industry coming together and then announcing initiatives like ZDHC and so many for it to become sustainable. So there are all kinds of watchdogs out there, which is more voluntary, but I would say SURE is the first of its kind, where it's an action by the industry to be held more accountable towards sustainability. So Avinash, any last remarks from you on accountability, traceability, which is, and transparency, which is the most important aspect?
Yeah, keep it simple, make it simple, like how we are now doing with EcoVero as well as the new product lineup is to put a tracer into the product so that even at a retail level or across the supply chain when the product is moving, if it is required to be identified, whether it is the right product, EcoVero or not, it can be just sent to the local lensing office or presence, and then it is confirmed that it is sustainable. So on last remark, like start it by yourself, and then you will see the difference, what we are seeing now into the world, and make it simple, make it available at an affordable cost to the retailers, brand, and ultimately to the end consumer. Then it will go to the next level.
And Praveen, just to add, because you are trying to be extremely transparent with your manufacturing process and the materials that you're using, why do you think this is going to be the big USP for you?
Big USP as such, because the world is moving towards it and everybody wants to get into it. But I think before we get into products that are sustainable and biodegradable, is we can all start being sustainable at home as well. Extending the use of
Which
clothes.
means what? How?
Which means extending the use of your clothes, thinking before you buy a second pair. I mean, as that gentleman said, recycling. See, in my factory, the waste foam
But the fashion industry survives on, increased sales. So how can we promote something like reuse and extend the, life of your product? Then who's going to buy all the clothes that have been made?
See, I'll give an example of Patagonia, which runs the workwear platform. So you actually go and give your old Patagonia merchandise, clothes, accessories, whatever. You get a percentage discount on new Patagonia merchandise, and the old one that you've given is actually fixed, refurbished, and sold on their workwear platform. So you're actually getting people to come back and buy more. If you really want to look at it, I mean, I hope that answers your question. Does that reduce sales? No. But is there an opportunity to increase sales? Yes. But all of this would end if we all start using sustainable fiber and stuff in our products and accessories, but it can start at home.
And Siddharth, just to conclude, is there a business model for this?
So the thing is that, when it comes to post-consumer recycling, all of us are really talking about the fact that, reuse garments, which is, the obvious first option. But the most important thing which is required is that, innovations are being looked at which can recycle post-consumer garments and, convert that back into textile. So that is going to complete the circularity loop. And at this point in time, that innovation is slightly expensive. And it's not been commercialized, at least from an India standpoint. And that is the kind of innovation that is required. How do you convert the garments that we're wearing back to textiles?
Okay, so on that note, I think time's up and we have to conclude. But thank you so much for being a very participative audience. You have asked many questions. I hope you will continue to do that. Just kidding. Of course, thank you to all the panelists for sharing all your inputs and perspectives. We've spoken. We have key members from across the value chain. It's quite a diverse panel. We've spoken about the need to cultivate leadership, starting with education, the right education, looking at what kind of innovative solutions can be created at scale, like we heard from Levi's, that can be collaborative, that can be shared. The fact that sustainability starts at the fiber level. We've heard Lenzing and Woolmark share some amazing developments and insights. And the need for startups, like Praveen mentioned about his startup, and Siddharth talked about the ecosystem that needs to be built and supported by the industry for it to be scaled. So thank you so much for sharing all your amazing ideas. And thank you, IFF, for having us.